the moment we have all been waiting for. Chad Daybell has been arrested and taken into custody. Hi guys, today's video is an update on the Lori Vallow Chad Daybell case and their two missing children, JJ and Tylee. If you're new to this case, make sure you check out my first video. I will leave a link on the screen right here or in the description box below. In that video, I give a more in-depth but easy to follow timeline of events. Even if you have been following a case and just want a very nice refresher on it, definitely head on over and check that video out. Let's get into today's case. Yesterday, on Tuesday, June 9th, police executed a search warrant at Chad Daybell's home where they discovered human remains. Chad was arrested and taken into custody after allegedly trying to flee from police. Now, I don't know if that part is accurate, if he actually did try to flee from police. It's kind of like rumored. Officials announced on Wednesday today that Chad Daybell has been officially charged with 2 felony counts of destruction, alterations, or concealment of evidence. Here is some footage of this morning's court hearing. It's too long to include the entire video in my video, so I will leave a link to the full video in the description below.
You understand your legal rights, is that correct?
I do.
All right. Mr. Daybell, did you receive a copy warrant of arrest as well as the criminal complaint that has been filed here in Fremont County in this case?
Yes.
Mr. Daybell, have you had a chance to review that criminal complaint as well as the arrest warrant with your counsel?
Yes.
Mr. Pryor, I can read the criminal complaint in its entirety, or I can summarize it for you.
Judge, we'll waive actually formal reading of the criminal complaint at this time, and I've discussed that matter with Mr. Daybell, and we're ready to proceed forward without either a summary or a formal reading at this point, Your Honor.
All right. The court is going to summarize briefly what the charges are, so that's on the record, and then we'll address the other issues we need to address. With regards to the criminal complaint, it was filed dated June 10th, 2020. There are 2 counts in the criminal complaint. The first count is destruction, alteration, or concealment of evidence, a felony, a violation of Idaho Code 182603. The maximum punishment for that charge is up to 5 years in the state penitentiary and or up to a $10,000 fine. The allegation is that the defendant, Chad Guy Daybell, on or between the 22nd day of September 2019 and the 9th day of June 2020 in the county of Fremont, state of Idaho, did willfully conceal and or aid and abet another to willfully conceal human remains, knowing that said human remains were about to be produced, used, and or discovered as evidence in a felony proceeding, inquiry and or investigation authorized by law with the intent to prevent it from being so produced, used, and or discovered. Count 2 is also the same charge, destruction, alteration, or concealment of evidence, a felony. It's punishable by up to 5 years in the state penitentiary and or up to a $10,000 fine. It alleges that the defendant, Chad Guy Daybell, on or between the 8th day of September 2019 and the 9th day of June 2020 in the county of Fremont, state of Idaho, did willfully destroy, alter, and or conceal human remains and or did aid and abet another to willfully destroy, alter, and or conceal human remains, knowing that said human remains were about to be produced, used, and or discovered as evidence in a felony proceeding. Inquiry and or investigation authorized by law with the intent to prevent it from being so produced, used, and or discovered. Mr. Daybell, do you understand the allegations on both counts that have been brought against you?
I do.
With regards to a preliminary hearing, let's first talk about the logistics of that. Mr. Wood, how long do you foresee it taking to accomplish a preliminary hearing in the future?
No longer than a day.
Okay, 1 day. Mr. Pryor, do you concur with that?
Judge, I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage, but for practical purposes, I think a day would be appropriate. Judge, the latter part of June and the first week of July, the 1st and the 2nd of July would be ideal for me if that's available to the court and to Mr. Wood.
We can
Mr.
make
Wood,
that work.
All right, set that then July 1st and July 2nd for the preliminary hearing or the probable cause hearing. And so I'd like to hear argument from both parties regarding bail. So why don't I hear from the state first, and then I'll hear from the defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state is requesting the bail be set at $1 million. While we recognize that felony concealing of evidence only has a maximum sentence of 5 years per charge, I think the background and context of this case necessitates a higher bail. One of the primary reasons we are asking that bail be set in that amount is that the evidence that has been concealed in this case, it's not simply a document, drugs, a gun. These are human remains. And we can, although those remains have not yet been positively identified, we are aware that those remains are the remains of children, which we believe is an aggravating factor. We have asked that the probable cause affidavit be sealed, but I would ask the court to take note of paragraphs 39 and 40 and the manner of the concealment of one of those bodies, which the state finds to be particularly egregious, both an aggravating factor and bears on character as Rule 40 as Rule 46 allows us to look at. Your Honor, we understand that the possible sentence on this case is not that long, but knowing what the subject matter is, we find it extremely serious. And we would also note that because of what has been found on Mr. Daybell's property, should he bail out, he has strong incentive to flee. Clearly, this is the beginning now of an investigation into the deaths of children who are found on his property. And so that provides a strong incentive to flee, and we would ask that the bail reflect that. Whatever the court sets as bail, we would ask that the conditions be set that should he bond out, that he be required to wear an ankle monitor, and that his movement be restricted to Madison and Fremont counties.
Thank you, Your Honor. But in regards to argument, Your Honor, I would point out that the charges are, as Ms. Wood pointed out, carry a maximum of 5 years. Mr. Daybell is not charged with anything more serious. And quite honestly, for the prosecuting attorney to assume that in the future he may or may not do that, and that we should increase the bail with the idea that in the future there may be something else coming down the pipe is just clearly contrary to what the purpose of bail is. Bail is to assure that Mr. Daybell shows up to court. Bail is to assure that he's not a flight risk, and there's nothing, as far as I'm concerned, in his history that indicates that he's going to flee the jurisdiction. I would refer the court to the affidavit on number 26, and it talks about the last time that they saw the kids. If Mr. Wood's intention is to pursue further charges, my belief is that he would have pursued those. And quite honestly, at this point, the court needs to take consideration of what the current charges are and whether or not Mr. Daybell will show up to court. Mr. Daybell has taken the initiative to hire private counsel. He has shown up to the proceeding today. Obviously, he's in custody. But Judge, when the police showed up at his house last night, Mr. Daybell didn't flee. Mr. Daybell didn't abscond. Mr. Daybell didn't run. Mr. Daybell's intention was, through his counsel, to turn himself into the court if that was something that was going to happen and address these issues. He has every intention of addressing these issues. He has significant family in the community. He has kids that live here. He owns property here. And quite honestly, I disagree with Mr. Wood. Mr. Daybell has every intention of staying in the community and every motivation to stay in the community and address these charges. So at this point, Judge, I would ask the court to put the bail at an amount that's appropriate for a 5-year felony sentence. I understand that there's been a significant amount of publicity with this, but publicity is not a reason to raise the bail to an extraordinary amount. And I would suggest that Mr. Wood's suggestion that a $1 million bail is okay, it's not okay, Judge. A $1 million bail is not okay for a 5-year felony sentence. And if in the future Mr. Wood decides to pursue other charges, I'm sure we'll address this again. But at this point, Your Honor, I think it's important for the court to set a bail at an appropriate amount based on the 2 felony 5-year sentences. I would ask the court for $50,000 on each count for a total of $100,000, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor. The court has listened carefully to the argument of both parties. The court has reviewed Idaho Criminal Rule 46, specifically the factors contained in Idaho Criminal Rule 46. The court has taken all of those factors into account, and based upon those factors and the charge, the court is going to set bail in the amount of $1 million.
As of today, Wednesday, June 10th, it was announced by both the Woodcock and Ryan families that the remains found on the Daybell property were that of both JJ and Tylee. However, authorities have not confirmed the identity of the remains. Lori Vallow is currently still sitting in jail on a $1 million bail. I don't know what to say. I mean, I need to collect my thoughts for this one. Can't say I'm surprised. Really, I can't say that I didn't kind of feel this coming. I hoped, and I think like everyone else that has been following this case, hoped to God that this was not going to be the outcome. This is absolutely horrific. It really is. I hope that this case does bring new light, shed new light, and bring more awareness onto the dangers of religious groups. I know a lot of people might attack me or get upset about it. The Turpin family children case, that was, I think, the second video I did on my channel. For instance, the Micah Stauffer case, the 8 passengers case. The reoccurring theme that I keep seeing is that all of these families, these couples, are a part of religious groups, are a part of some religious organization, some church. It stemmed from something like that. It was so triggering for me because of my past and my situation with my family and being born into a religion and being a part of a religious cult per se. So much years of abuse, mental, emotional, physical, every type of abuse that you can think. Just because it's a religion does not mean that it is the right thing and is okay and is healthy for a human being. Absolutely not. This case is not about me, but I just wanted to touch on it for a minute just so people understand that I'm not attacking religion or people in religion, but I do think that a lot of light should be shed on it. I think that because a lot of times, because it is a religion and it is a church, it's separate. No one really checks in on these churches. No one really sees what they're doing and makes sure that they're doing the right thing. You just kind of assume because they are supposed to be following the light, they're supposed to be following Christ, that they're going to be doing things that are accordingly, like that are right to human beings and mankind. But that's not exactly true. I've seen so many instances where cults, I'm not saying the entire church is bad, but that cults form inside of churches. A lot of times that has happened as well. And I can just say, like, just based off of the things that I was already hearing and the way that these two individuals met each other, the way that they were going to the church, all of the stuff that was surrounding them definitely were signs of cult-like. I think that religions need to be monitored. I'm sorry. They need to be re-reviewed every couple years to make sure that they are fitting in with the current times and situations and circumstances. I think we all knew that this was coming. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. I think that people are heartbroken. Melanie Pawlowski is a liar. She lied. She concealed evidence. She knew and knows about all of this. That's what I think. She definitely knows more than she's saying. That's obvious. So I think she should have charges brought up against her as well. And I think they should further investigate her. I am relieved that these two individuals are no longer on the streets. What do you guys think about this case? Please let me know in the comments down below. If you like videos like these, then check out my last episode. I will leave it linked on the screen right here. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future episodes. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.